Hey, this is Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses, and you're watching GNR Central. Yeah!
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And today I want to talk about the true story behind the Eagles' Don Henley and Guns N' Roses, and more specifically, Guns N' Roses frontman Axl Rose. Now let's go back to January 30th of 1989. It's almost 30 years ago, and Guns N' Roses are supposed to be playing the American Music Awards. They're going to be playing their new hit single at the time, Patience. However, like anything with Guns N' Roses, great success often comes with great complications. And like the rest of the band, Steven Adler had lived a rock and roll lifestyle to the hilt, and by 1989, he was soon knee-deep in his addictions. So it was a disaster that everyone tried to slave off by having the drummer enter rehab. So with the lineup temporarily without a drummer, Axl Rose needed to turn to somebody to play drums for the awards show. So he turned to his label mate, Don Henley. So something you guys may not know is that Axl Rose actually sang on one of Don Henley's songs. He sang background vocals to the song I Will Not Go Quietly. That was a song that was featured on Henley's hugely popular The End of Innocence LP at the time. So at that time, Henley was still in the process of finishing the record, as he later recalled in an interview with Modern Drummer. So Rose's session took place shortly before he got the call to sit in at the American Music Awards. So Don Henley recounted the story of how he got the call. He said, I was in the studio for about 2 to 3 weeks later, and the phone rang. It was Axl. He says, I got a proposition for you. We've got to play the American Music Awards, and our drummer's sick. We want you to play the drums, said Henley. I was a little taken aback by the proposition, so I told him I'd think about it and call him back. Fortunately for Guns N' Roses, Henley then turned to producer Danny Korchmar, who enthusiastically encouraged Henley to take Rose up on the offer. A few rehearsals later, he added one of the odder high-profile gigs in his career to the rock and roll history books. Fortunately, it was a ballad that we played, not a balls-to-the-wall number, added Henley. It was a piece of cake. There really was nothing to it. I think they were kind of rebelling, again, about the whole thing. I understood that very well because I lived through one of those periods, so in a way, I was reliving the past. Hell, I didn't see Dick Clark since 1970. Now, the song that Axl Rose sang on Don Henley's album, I Will Not Go Quietly, peaked at number 2 on the mainstream rock charts. And to date, the album has sold over 6 million units in the United States alone. It sold over 100,000 in the UK and over 200,000 in Canada, making a double platinum in Canada and 6 times platinum in the United States. Fast forward now to 2014, and there's a list that's compiled by Concert Hotels that compared the singers' vocal ranges across the recording. So looked at all these different well-known singers and looked at which singers had the greatest vocal range. And the number one person on that list was Axl Rose. So they took the pole position with 5-octave F1 through B6 range. The silver spot goes to Mariah Carey, with Prince, Steven Tyler, and James Brown rounding out the top 5. Commiserations to Luke Bryan and Taylor Swift, who languished right at the bottom of the list. So there are a couple of other surprises, including Lord's range trumps Whitney Houston's, Eminem's sits above the likes of Adele and Bjork, and Tom York from Radiohead sits pretty in the top 10, while Mariah Carey's in the G7 is the highest note. Rose's F1 on There Was a Time is the lowest. So according to the same list, while Axl Rose had his lowest note in the Chinese Democracy song There Was a Time, his highest note was in the cover of the Dead Boys song Ain't It Fun, which appeared on their 1993 covers album The Spaghetti Incident. Now, Axl actually put out a statement responding to the list. He said he found the recognition flattering and humbling, according to Spin Magazine, though he wouldn't top his own list of greatest singers. So Axl came out and listed his favorite singers, which included Don Henley. And he said, if I had to say who I thought the best singers were, I'd first say I don't know if there's a definitive answer. In my opinion, it's subjective. And second, my focus is primarily rock singers, he told Spin. That said, I enjoy Freddie Mercury, Elvis Presley, Paul McCartney, Dan McCafferty, Janis Joplin, Michael Jackson, Elton John, Roger Daltrey, Don Henley, Jeff Lynne, Johnny Cash, Frank Sinatra, Jimmy Scott, Etta James, Fiona Apple, Chrissie Hynde, Stevie Wonder, and James Brown, and a ton of others, predominantly 70s rock singers, and would rather hear any of them than myself any other time. So that does it for this episode of Guns N' Roses True Story. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed that episode. And be sure to follow us on social media. The links are down below. And go check out gnrcentral.com for the latest and greatest Guns N' Roses and related breaking news. You guys can also go support us on Patreon if you guys want us to see us continue to make great content just like this. And you guys can also get free perks and cool perks that our regular subscribers don't get if you go support us on Patreon. Take care.
What's going on? It's Alex Graspop from Hookers and Blow, and you're watching GNR Central. Right on.